So hello everyone and welcome to Starlight's vlog. And I'm making this vlog because I really had such a huge breakthrough last weekend. It was the last womb workshop of the year for Starlight, and Starlight's womb workshops have been a really interesting journey because the first one that we did, it just so happened that there were lots and lots of women there that were trying to get pregnant, and they were all fairly young, and it was really about the maiden energy, even though that hadn't been intended. It was meant to be a one-off workshop. And then I felt guided to do another one, and so I did one in Bristol, and that one had lots of women there that were mothers, and there was even a mother and daughter in the ceremony for the day. And so we went intuitively into working with the mother aspect of the goddess. And then the next one, it just so happened that there were lots of women that had ended their period or were going through menopause. And so we ended up really working with the energy of the grandmother and the crone. And then the one after that, I had kind of got where the direction was going. And so I presumed that it was going to be about the Magdalene aspect, which it was. And to me, the Magdalene aspect is, you know, really the place between the virginal maiden aspect and the mother, because you don't go from being a virgin to being a mother without having that sexually empowered Magdalena aspect. And so I never see it as the triple goddess. I see it as, I used to see it as the four aspects. And then I presumed that there was a fifth aspect, but I really didn't know what it was. And I was guided to do one more womb workshop this year, which we did last weekend. And I really didn't know what it was going to be about. I thought it might be like bringing them all in together or embracing the goddess as a whole. And then as time went on and we got closer to the workshop, I started to intuitively feel that it might be about the dark goddesses and the aspect of the dark goddess. And I have to confess that I really avoided going there in my head because I was judgmental, and I thought, you know, I had all of these preconceived ideas about the dark goddesses. And even though I've worked with some of them that are traditionally dark, like Mother Kali, quite a lot, I was, if I'm honest, a little bit terrified of doing a dark goddess workshop. And so I kind of ignored it. And then the day before the workshop, I was on a train going from Shropshire back to Brighton. And I was like, okay, universe, if I am meant to be working with the dark goddesses tomorrow, you're going to send me loads of signs. And I have to confess, I was like, I really highly doubt that I'm going to get a lot of signs about dark goddesses on a train from Shropshire to Brighton. But no, the universe managed to do it. I was seeing Carly's name everywhere. My friend even called me and was talking to me about the Queen of the Underworld. And I got back to Brighton and I was just like, okay, Katie, you're going to have to look into these dark goddesses. And then I looked into these dark goddesses, and I did a conscious search on the internet. So I asked the universe to show me what I needed to see. And it was the most incredible investigation, because I found all of these websites talking about the original stories of the dark goddesses, and each one of these figures of women, these representations of women, I realized had been demonized. That the stories that are attached to them and the names that are attached to them are actually nothing to do with what their original stories are about. And it was, their original stories are of these very, very powerful, magical women that refused to be suppressed, that refused to bow down. I'm not going to tell you all of them. They're really quite easy to research and find. But to give you some examples, Medusa, who is like this total demonesque figure in our mythology, was originally the crone of Athena, and she didn't have snakes in her hair. She carried snakes because they are a very powerful symbol of death and rebirth. And she wore a mask that was red for the color of menstrual blood, and she'd wear that mask to frighten anyone away who wasn't going to respect the sacredness of the moon ceremonies. And then there's Lilith, who's maybe the most demonized of all of the dark goddesses. And her original story is that she was the first wife of Adam, and she refused to submit to him. She said, I'm your equal, I'm not going to submit to you. And so he left her for Eve. And these stories have been corrupted and misshaped and distorted because these women were powerful. And so they've been demonized and rejected by the masculine world that we were in. And one thing that I noticed with all of these women were they were all, their original stories, they were all witches. That was kind of the name that was running through all of them. And it really made me think about, well, what is a witch? And a witch is a really empowered woman, a woman that works with nature and can change the weather and has her own magic under her control, and has the power to change and transform and make things magical and see and feel and know, and respects sacred ceremony. And whenever I work with goddesses, it's really about looking at how that reflects in our lives and how those stories play out for ourselves, how those collective stories become personal to us. And of course, all of my doubts and fears and worries about the womb workshop were dissolved, because these goddesses are beautiful, loving, and powerful energies that they can be a little bit scary, but that's only because they force you to be in your power. They show you what's not of service to you. They have the balls to tell you the truth as it is, without the kind of floweriness that some other energies use in a more gentle way. These women, they're no bullshit. These female energies, and it was a hugely beautiful and transformational and empowering day, that womb workshop, and it really unlocked this other aspect of the goddess that had been missing in my picture of the goddess. And what is amazing is that during the channeling course, I was doing one of the homeworks for the channeling course, because I go through it with the group each day, because it's good for my channeling to practice. And during one of the exercises, I was channeling, and two goddesses came to me, and they were Kuan Yin and Green Tara. And they said to me, Avebury this year, because we go to the winter solstice every year, has got to be a goddess journey. And what you are going to be healing and working with in Avebury this year is the bit of the goddess between the crone and the maiden. And at the time, I really didn't understand it. I was just like, okay, I trust you. We're going to go with that. And now having done the womb workshop, I now fully understand what that aspect is. It's when the crone comes into all of her magic, comes into all of her wisdom, owns all of her wisdom and power and mysticism. And that's when she becomes goddess-like and beautiful, and also gets all of the aspects of the maiden that are so disassociated with the crone, because she comes into the fullness of her power, because she becomes her own witch. And so I've felt guided to start calling that aspect the midnight goddesses, because it's like we go into the moonlight, into the starry night, into the midnight hours of our womanhood. And so I'm really, really excited about Avery. I really feel it's about a new power rising within the divine feminine that is generally rising, and about accessing who we are when we are in our own magic, when we are in our own control. And so that's what Avery's going to be about this year. I'm going to tune in more about it, but I just really wanted to share that, because it's such an empowering place to be, whether you are male or female, to find your inner mystical witch energy that is just a woman that is so in her power, or a man that is so in his divine feminine power, that they are so magical that they're intimidating, that they're so powerful that they're intimidating, because they're so ready to shine in their power and stand up for themselves and stand up for their truth. And I really feel that energy is so, so important at this time, and so a part of us fulfilling the destiny of ascension. So look into those goddesses, invite them to start helping you into your power. And if you're working with the goddess aspects, my advice is that you start to expand beyond the triple goddess. It is so not the fullness of what the goddess is about. And actually the suppressed sides are the sides that need the most attention and healing. The Magdalena and the Midnight Goddess, these sides within ourselves are what need to rise again in order for the divine feminine to fully come back into balance with the sacred masculine. So much love and gratitude. Thank you for listening. Big hugs to everyone.